Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5. I'm calling this one the Angie story. I have Angie here with me today. She runs a Facebook page in Grant County, Indiana called All Along the Spectrum for families and other parents and caregivers of children or working with individuals who have autism. And so I'm super excited to have her here today. Angie, thanks so much for being here. Is there anything that you just want to share right off the bat about you, your family, maybe why you wanted to come talk with me today?
Sure. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah.
I am a mom of 4 boys. Actually, 3 have been diagnosed on the spectrum. I'm still not quite sure about the third one, but I definitely have 2 on the spectrum, but on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I get to see the difference of autism. It isn't always the same in each individual. And I do, like I said, Taylor said, I run a All Along Spectrum on Facebook. I am a nonprofit organization, and we just try to help spread awareness and help parents beginning the journey where they can go, the information to get. We would help fill out the paperwork. Whatever parents would need, or I run a support group page as well. It's closed and private, so parents can come in and ask questions, and just it's nice to have the support between all the parents. Even I ask questions. And I feel like I'm seasoned well in it, but I feel like I still have a lot of things to, as Sean continues to grow, and there's things that crop up. So
Yeah,
it's
of
all
course.
new to me. So.
Yeah. Can you, if you feel comfortable sharing, can you tell us the age of your 3 sons that have been diagnosed so we can kind of get a glimpse of the age spectrum there?
Yes, that's 24, 22, and 13.
Woo! 13.
Yeah.
You have your hands full. I'm sure people say that all the time. People say that with me with just with 3 kids, but you with 4 boys. And especially 3 autism diagnoses there for sure. You have a
Yeah.
ton of experience.
And like I said, the 24-year-old, I'm on the fence because the only reason he really got the diagnosis is because of his sensory to eating and the way he has sensory to things. So I still think I want to have more testing and I'm on the fence with that one. But
Yeah,
definitely the
yeah,
22 and 13-year-old, we're definitely there for sure.
yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump into it. Today, I'm doing a couple of different episodes where I'm really talking about early signs of autism and what the diagnostic experience was for those individuals. So there's so much to I can't talk today. Unpack for the life of somebody with autism. But I'm really heavily focusing right now on like early signs, diagnostic criteria, those kinds of things. So that's where we're going to focus most of our conversation today. I'm sure in future, if you want to come back and tell me about all the other experiences, I'd love to have you. Um, but for today, we'll focus on that. So if you just could break down for us, what were the early signs that you started to notice for at least 2 of your boys, if you want to include your third one? But I'm just thinking about the first signs of autism and what kind of had you concerned or maybe thinking about reaching out to a professional.
Okay, well, I'll start with Micah. He's 22. I started noticing before he even turned 1. He wasn't crawling. He wasn't. There was no eye contact. There were no words as we were approaching 1-year old. Didn't like to be held much. We had to eventually have physical therapy to work on the hips because he couldn't crawl or walk. I reached out to the pediatrician and she did a small assessment and she sent us on to Riley Developmental Center. Now, it looked different 22 years ago versus now. It was a whole 8-hour of testing at Riley Hospital. I mean, we went through psychological, hearing, on my end plus his end. They took him away from me And I actually brought a friend with me that went with him to help him guide through him all that. And while I was on my end answering all the questions that was being deemed of me while they were doing all his stuff. Now,
About how old was he? Do you
he
remember?
was, I want to say, he was diagnosed at 4.
Okay.
So, it was a little bit different. Like I said, for him, for Sean, who's 13, I knew right away with Sean because of Micah. So I already seen the signs. So we had already reached out to the doctor who, again, put us through Riley Developmental Center. But this time it was different. It wasn't an 8-hour testing. We literally went in for 2 hours. They asked me a bunch of questions, tossed a ball with him. He didn't show him no signs. Check the box, moderate autism, off you go. See you in a year. Went back in a year. They changed it from moderate to severe because he didn't have any speech. So that was literally an hour appointment. So it definitely had changed in years from the time Micah was diagnosed to versus when Sean went. There's just not a whole lot they do with your child. They just kind of like try to toss the ball, try to talk to him, get the eye contact. And if they don't get any of that, then they just get the whole, they're autistic kind of thing. It's more or less the questions I answer, what I'm seeing, what he's doing. That's how they pretty much deem it on my end for,
And has
go ahead.
okay. And have either one of them been reevaluated since then? Sometimes I know insurance
No,
or
no, they
okay.
have not at all. Once he was uh, deemed, Sean was deemed um, severe, it was just left there. And Micah was not only just diagnosed with autism, but he was also diagnosed with cognitive delay as well.
Okay. And those two diagnostic evaluations were about how many years apart? So
Well, Micah
uh
is 22 and he was 4 when he had it. And let's see, Sean is 13 and he
18
was
years
4
ago.
when he had it. So,
Okay. Okay. So yeah, 18 years ago for Micah's, and then Sean 13 now, and I'm
he
sorry.
was
I'm
4
trying to
when we
keep all
did
the
it.
math.
You're okay. I'm not good with numbers either. He was 4 when he was
Okay.
diagnosed. So,
Okay. And what were the early signs, if you remember any with Sean? Were they any different?
um, yes, Sean, I don't want to say different, about the same. Sean wasn't walking either. We didn't have the muscle control. No eye contact. Definitely didn't like to be touched. He didn't speak, didn't have any words. No, you know how most babies are mama, dada. We didn't have any of that. Definitely a lot of behaviors at early age. So that's
Yeah.
where I say him and Mike are total opposites because Micah did have some behaviors, but nothing like Sean did. So definitely total
When you're
two
talking
opposite
about
ends.
yeah, when you talk about behaviors, what do you mean? What behaviors were you seeing?
A lot of physical out of Sean. A lot of aggressive.
Okay.
Like I get punched in the face. I get kicked. I've been windows knocked out of my house. I've had windshields kicked out of my car. A lot of scratching, hitting himself, pulling his hair out. We went through a whole episode where we went kind of bald on the sides because we was picking our hair. A lot of mouthing, a lot of things that's not food. And
Yeah. And
but
did
Micah didn't
you
have a
see a
lot
lot
of
of
that.
these things?
So sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I think there's a little bit of a delay, so
Yeah.
I keep like trying not to interrupt you, but um so did you see some of those behaviors from Sean when he was really little and maybe they've just continued to get more severe? Like they were there, they just have gotten more severe as he's gotten older.
Yeah. Yeah, they started out
Yeah.
like that, and it mean to other kids, just a lot of smacking, self hitting, biting. And as we've gotten older, now we have progressed to spitting, and that's really fun.
Mhm.
I mean,
Can imagine.
I will have to tell you, at 13, I thought they would be way worse than where we're at. So I have to say they have
Yeah.
mellowed somewhat a little bit, but I know puberty's upon us. So
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that being a really big milestone in our household. Uh, it was a quick switch. So been there. I remember that, not as a parent, of course, but living in the house as that was going on. I do remember that switch there. Kind of going back a little bit, how did your doctor respond to your concerns when you brought forward concerns about your boys?
Well, actually, I was lucky enough to still have the same pediatrician for Micah, and I absolutely loved her, because when you would bring it to her, she was right on it, and she made sure she got you to the right spot down. She would tell me, absolutely, she would tell me, I can't diagnose them, but I can get you where I need you to go. And she was
Yeah.
really on it, and very, how I would say, educational to me and helping me. And she also soothed me a lot to help me not to worry so much. But that don't work as a mom either. That's all we do is worry.
Yeah. It's true. Okay. So she was supportive. That's amazing. Talked about the process kind of getting the appointment. Do you remember how long you had to wait? Was it like a significant wait list to go down and actually get to your evaluation once your doctor said, yes, let's get you to it?
Well, with Micah, it wasn't long at all. I want to say maybe within 6 months.
Okay.
Sean, it was a year.
Whew.
Yeah.
Even 6 months is a
Yeah.
long time to wait
Hmm.
for that.
Yeah.
So 6 months to a year. Okay. Yeah, I mean, for you to even say, it wasn't that long, it was only 6 months, to me, I'm like, holy moly, that is a long
I
time.
guess when you get diagnosed, I don't know. I think anymore 6 months flies.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Do you remember what type you talked a little bit about with Micah? You had like a whole team of people that were diagnosing and involved in that process.
Mhm.
For Sean, do you remember what type of clinician did the evaluation? Do you remember whether it was like a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and do you happen to
Well,
remember what type
I
of
can
doctor?
tell you her name. I do remember that.
Okay,
And I can't tell you if she was a psychiatrist or psychologist, but I
okay,
do know she is the one that did all the diagnosing.
okay, okay. Um, and then did they tell you the results of their testing right during the appointment, or did they call you afterwards? Did they have a debrief with you, or how did that go?
With Micah, they called me and went over everything. With Sean, I knew before I walked out of the room.
Okay. Okay. What were your initial thoughts? I mean, with Sean, you kind of were expecting it, right? But I don't know if that made a difference. Was it still just as, hard to process in the moment or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was told when I was pregnant that more than likely he would have autism, since I had a son with autism. So I was like a little bit more prepared. But
Okay.
I think it doesn't matter how prepared you are, it's a mother's guilt that you'll carry.
Yeah.
I called, I think how I referred to it was like a grieving process. You get the
Yeah.
official diagnosis, and then you go through a stage of, you blame yourself. What could I have done better during my pregnancy? What could I have changed? And then it moves on to, well, I blame myself. Maybe I gave it to him, so I'm angry at myself, and because I'm making him suffer. But then as I went on, I don't see it that way anymore. I actually feel like they're the lucky ones, to be honest with you. I really do. They see the world in a whole different direction. And I really wished I could see it the way he does.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. Um, okay. And then at the time of your diagnostic appointment, was it just kind of like here's the diagnosis. Best of luck to you. We'll see you in a year, like you kind of mentioned? Or did they give any recommendations on, like, hey, this is the therapy we would recommend? These are the resources available to you. Was there any kind of debrief about next steps or recommendations?
Yes, actually, I should have pulled out that paper before I started with you, but yes, they gave
Okay.
me a whole set of papers that gave me, they took, I had a paper listed like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the next steps I needed to take. And then there was a paper behind it of resources I could get to help me take those next steps.
Okay. Do you remember any of the immediate recommendations as far as like uh
Um,
any like not necessarily like paperwork filing, but like services, things like that?
Oh, I'm not quite sure if I can remember what they suggested, but I could tell you what I did.
Okay.
I went
That's
to,
fine. That'd be
started with first steps with Sean, where they come in the home and he just being a little guy, and we started in on that. And we had physical therapy going, and we just approached it all through that because at that time insurances wasn't paying for ABA at those times when he was really little, so we couldn't get
Yep.
into anything like that till he was 5. That's when we was able to start our journey with ABA.
I remember that. I
Mhm.
remember that change when they started paying for that. It
Mhm.
really opened up. That's when we were able to provide a services to a lot more kiddos. I specifically remember that now that you're saying it. Okay. Angie, especially like with your experience now, what advice would you give other parents who are seeing early signs of autism with their kids? What recommendations would you give them?
Well, early invention is the best invention. Yeah. The
Yeah,
second
yeah,
you have the remotely any gut instinct that your child could be on the spectrum, I would not delay. I would reach out to my doctor. I would express my concerns because I still know, as of today, talking to other parents, there is still anywhere from a 1 to 2 year waiting list now to get in to be
yeah,
diagnosed. And I feel like we would have been further along with Sean if we could have got him in to some form of therapy early. But unfortunately, it was just not that way, and that's okay. We're chugging along now.
yeah,
But yeah, if any parent has any questions, I would suggest reaching out to other parents and asking, and make sure you're talking to your doctor. And if your doctor doesn't seem too concerned, then you find another doctor. You find somebody to listen, because the quicker you could get your child the help your child needs, then the better off they're going to be. Because, I mean, autism is not a life sentence. They can live a regular life and they can
yeah,
be extraordinary as adults. So don't write it off as, oh, they're autistic. Just like for me, if I tell people my sons are autistic, they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, why? Don't feel sorry. Don't pity them. Don't pity me. So I guess my biggest phrase anymore when I hear that is, I said, don't be sorry. I said, I love the journey, and my tour guide is fabulous. So
yeah. Both of them. It's a good way to look at it. If they've gotten their diagnosis and maybe I forget what phrase you used, but kind of just like processing all of that and maybe need some support, what would you recommend at that point for them?
I would strongly suggest, if you have family that will support you, you need to reach out to family and make sure you have that support. I've been asked that a lot by many doctors. Do you have support? Which I do. I have amazing friends. They don't understand a lot about autism, but they try. And then I have moms that have autistic kids, and their kids are all on all different levels. It's crazy. We all share our stories because they're all different. Or I call, what I say is, I have two venting buddies. And one is somebody who knows nothing about autism, and then I have one that knows who has a child with autism. So that way, if I call the mom one day and say, hey, is it a bad thing I haven't bathed my kid in 2 weeks because he won't get in the tub? Nope, not at all. I don't judge you at all. And I'm like, that's the kind of person you need. And then you have the one who's not experienced in it, just so you can get it off your chest and just get it out there, you know? So I always say, if you don't have that kind of support, again, I'm in Grant County, and even people out of Grant County can find me. Just get on your Facebook. It's all on the spectrum. It's a closed private support group. You got to answer, I think, like I got 3 questions you got to get in, but you don't have to answer all of them. We'll click you in to join. You can even post anonymous if you don't want your name out there, and you can ask questions. I have I believe now 435 in my support group. So I have
That's
a
amazing.
lot of people ask a lot of questions. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy to me how knowledge about autism and how kind of like I don't want to say a popular topic, but kind of it's become very well known here recently. Lots of people are talking about it, so I'm glad to hear that they're finding your group for support. Glad to hear all of that. As far as recommendations for, you talked about early treatment. Any specific types of recommendations that you would say? So you talked about early steps, first steps.
yeah, first steps.
Any other recommendations? Okay.
Yes, I do. And I'm strong on this. And I know a lot of parents don't agree on it. And that's okay. Everybody has their
Mm-hmm.
personal preference, and that's fine. But I am
Yep.
huge with ABA. I've heard a lot of parents say they don't like it because they think it's like a dog training thing. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't be where we are today with Sean if it wasn't for ABA. He would not be talking. He wouldn't be potty trained. He wouldn't be doing a lot of things that he's doing now. I mean, he can now, dress himself. He's bathing, he's putting on his own deodorant, he knows his left and right from his feet and putting on his shoes. I mean, from where we began, I would cry and think I'm always going to be his caretaker. He's never going to be able to do nothing. And my gosh, I hardly do anything. He's doing, I mean, every once in a while we got to chime in, but for the most part,
Yeah.
He now knows his name, his full name. He knows my full name, his dad's full name. He knows his address, his phone number. He knows the days of the week. He knows the months of the year. I mean, he has grown in so many ways I didn't think I would ever see. And I didn't even think he would talk. Now I can't get him shut up. I mean, he doesn't fully like on conversations, but he can talk enough. And what he can't get out, we have the speech device that he will type out. And let me tell you, he's quick on that thing. He could type. And he knows how to spell, and he knows how to
That's
read.
great. That's amazing.
So ABA, yes,
That's
definitely. I
amazing.
am huge.
Um,
As quick as you could get them in, I am huge for ABA.
yeah. Yeah, I've heard those same concerns about ABA. Obviously, being a VCBA, I hear the concerns about it for sure. I've definitely had to grow in my own practice as recent research has come out, and have really had to pivot our type of practices that we're implementing. And I love the way that where the field is going. And honestly, that's what we do as a field. That's what we do with autism. It's what we do anytime that there's research and people involved. We continue to just get better, right? We just continue to improve and move forward, and we know better, we do better. So Angie, anything else that I didn't ask you that you want to share today before we kind of end today's session?
Well, and the only other thing I think I would throw out to parents as well is it's not just autism too, and maybe there can be a day I could come back and we get to talk about that. But sometimes a lot of
Yeah.
kids will have a slew of medical issues that come along with autism as well. So, those are just things you want to keep an eye on. And one other thing, I personally, my opinion again, don't judge nobody, but I'm not big on medicines. for autistic kids for behaviors, but I feel ABA can mellow those out more than the medication. But, some parents, I don't judge you. If that's what you feel is helping your kid, by all means, you do what you have to
Yeah.
do for your child. But I just strongly suggest to just do your research, dig in, always dive. Because I've always been told when something's told to me, I'm researching and over researching before I make a decision, because I just feel like, he's my kid and I want the best for him. And but then there's the other thing. You get the anxiety. Did I do the right thing? Did I make the right decision? Should I done that? Should I have not done that? So you're going to question yourself 1,000 times. And again, that's why I strongly suggest you have venting buddies, a support group, and it'll help you, you know, decide that you made the right decision in the long run for your kiddos.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you again, Angie. It's been wonderful having you on here again. It's been great to talk to you and catch up. If you can find Angie on All Along the Spectrum on the Facebook group, she told you there's just a few couple of questions you got to answer, and maybe not all of them, but you can hop on there and she's ready to support you along with her 400 plus members to kind of join as well. We're going to wrap up episode 5, the Angie story. I'll have it posted here soon. Thanks again, Angie. It was great.
thanks, Taylor.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, of course. Bye.
Bye.